I think in the world of education today, we have much more diagnosis than we have design. This session is entitled and is about design. It's entitled Designing Education Futures. It's time to put all the great insights of this conference together and all your wisdom together and say, what truly are we aiming for? What kinds of education, what systems, what forms are we trying to achieve, are we headed for? So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to press my panel on that as far as I can take them.
If I just take the last 10 years and see what happened, we have a common understanding on the right for basic education, for the right of preschool education. I think this is common sense. But for me, and that was a bit missing in this discussion for the last 2 days, we didn't think further. What happens after that? What is the next step? What is our strategy? Where do we bring the people? If we talk about the future of education, we have to see that the world is not having everywhere the same problems. Africa has other problems than Europe, for example. In Europe, we don't have the chance, I have to say, like Africa, to have a lot of young people that we can train for the future. We have the problem that we get less and less and that we get older and older. We have an increase from 80 million to 140 million people beyond 65 in the next couple of years in Europe. And we lack labor force, we lack young people. So our focus regarding education policy is more on how do we get elder workers to continuing training? How do we make them fit for future developments? So I just want to say that if we talk about the future of education, we have to distinguish on the one hand on the systemic level, on the institutional level and on the individual level, but we also have to face that the different world regions are in different state of the art regarding their demography or regarding their education.
The big question is, are children learning? Are they really learning? How are they learning? Why the progress is so slow, so low? What have the teachers done? Have they been well trained? Have they been motivated? That's one. Second, the fundamental for any agenda, is it really based on human rights? The right to education? The principles which are, how would I say that, drawing our work, is it based on equity? Is it based on inclusion? These are the fundamental questions.
Due to the modern technologies, to the development, etc., and to the new social contract of education. And we have to rethink education in terms of its social contract towards individuals and societies. Education will go beyond institutions and schools, as it is. You learn and you educate outside schools, universities, high school, etc. And this will increase in power. Knowledge will be and is already accessible everywhere through internet, through all these medias, etc. So the challenge now is this availability of knowledge, which is increasing in power due to research. We should not forget that education is not only transmitting knowledge, but improving knowledge through research and innovation. So knowledge will be available everywhere and at every moment of our life.
What you should evaluate is the learning. How is the child learning? What is he interested in?
Yes.
And then develop that. Because each child has a potential. So how to tap into that potential and develop it? I think this is going to be the big challenge for all of us in the coming years.
What counts is the learning outcome of the individual. And never mind what you learned and where you learned, you have the possibility to get this validated and use it for the next steps of your career. That is this very simple message, which is on the system level, again, very complicated to install.
Sure, yeah.
I think the system should be open. You come in when you are able to do it, you go out, do something else, come back whenever you need. It has to be open. You learn when you have time. You learn when you need it. The education system has to accept you. If you come from, let's say, technical and vocational, and you want to go to the formal and higher whatever. You have to be allowed to. So it has to be open. You go in, you go out, you come in and you come out. It has to be really flexible.
The future system has to be a kind of subtle composition of traditional means, schools, universities, because children, students need to meet, to live together, and not to live in virtuality.
Yes.
They need to live together, learning to live together, so they have to meet each other and to travel.
Okay.
Students of tomorrow will travel. I think we have
Okay.
to develop also strong institutional networks of education.
Okay.
An institution isolated has no future today. Even the best universities today, in 20 years, if they still remain isolated with their prestige, will not survive.
There is a sense of agency. It's we make our future. So it's not a future that's going to happen to us. It's people who are thinking through their future. Now, what I would like to say is I'd like to see education become once again a public good. There were times when it was a public good. Our present now is actually experiencing education becoming totally privatized, and it's more and more becoming privatized. And that brings me to the issue of who designs our policies, who are the ones who are driving our agendas. Definitely, we are moving towards corporate design, globalized design, and it's time we actually reshape that to a large extent. And the way to do that is, again, we have to devise proper mechanisms for consensus building in each nation, which is not through ministries of education, but through national councils that bring together everyone to shape out what the old philosophers thought education was all about, is for a better society.
I would support the idea that education is a public good for sure, but again, you have to differentiate. Basic education, the first qualifications, definitely public good, involvement of all stakeholders needed, no question. But as soon as it comes to continuing training, we have to be very clear in continuing education that you have more self-responsiveness, that there's responsiveness of the industry and of the government. So this is changing also in the lifetime of the education process.
I will say that whatever is going to be designed, it has to be done by all and with the participation of the young people that we are talking about. I mean, all of us, we have to be involved. But the participation of the young people is really paramount.
I think education is a social concern. It cannot be the concern of a happy few or a small number of responsible. Okay. I think the education of the future should come from a social consensus.
And whatever we will be talking about, we have to be bold but realistic and practical.